were getting ready to do this, I'd be like, man, we're already getting ready to go back to school. That went very quickly. But on the other hand, it was like, we're kind of at that, we got a rising third grader, rising second grader, a rising kindergartner. I think the First Lady and I are kind of at the point in the summer where we're looking forward to school resuming. We've done some fun things. They've done camps. They've done a lot. It's been active, but we're kind of like, it's like, now they're kind of around, when they're not in the camp, or they're around the house a lot, and it just creates, so, it's fine. We have fun. But you just reached the end of the summer where you're doing that, so we're somewhat looking forward to that. I think it'll be fun. But this is what we're announced today is actually new for Florida. The way it's been done, it's longer and permanent, which really makes a difference. But I think if you look around the country, what state has been ranked #1 in economy for 3 years in a row? The state of Florida. What state has been ranked 1 in education freedom year after year? The state of Florida. What state is ranked #1 for talent development? State of Florida. What about entrepreneurship? State of Florida. Higher education? State of Florida. New business creations? State of Florida, #1. Large state economic growth? Yes, you guessed it, the state of Florida, #1. So we're proud of that. And there's a lot that goes into that. We've got a lot of great people here. We've got a lot of talented folks that really work hard. But we have a framework of good policy that really makes it possible for people to realize their dreams. And that's not true in every part of the country. There's a lot of state and city governments that really work against people, and almost as like they don't want them to succeed with their really wrong-headed policies. And whether that's crime and releasing criminals, not being serious about holding people accountable, whether that's excessive taxes, whether that's onerous bureaucracy and red tape and regulation, whether that's injecting woke ideology into every aspect of American life. Like, all that stuff's been tried and it's failed. It looks like New York City, they may want to double down on this stuff with electing this guy mayor. We'll see what happens there, but I know that would be devastating for the city there if they were to do that. So we've gone about it the other way, different, and we've always been very supportive of taxpayers. So we have no income tax in Florida, which obviously everybody knows, but we also have one of the lowest tax burdens per capita, state tax burdens per capita in the entire United States, and we intend to keep it that way. And we are always looking for ways to return money to the taxpayers in a variety of ways, and we've done that. So since I've been governor, we've signed into law almost $10 billion in tax relief over these years. And just to put that in perspective, I think when I became governor, they would typically do a few $100 million in tax relief each and every year. This year is the second time where we've exceeded $2 billion in annual tax relief, and we've done that in a variety of different ways. But that's really, really meaningful for folks. Now, I always talk about look at how the national debt has increased so much, particularly over the last 25 years. Look at Florida over the last 6 or 7 years. Our state debt, if you take the entire debt over a 180-year period, we've paid off over 40% of it just since I've been governor. And so it's declining, whereas it's obviously rising in many other states and nationally. And because of the budget I signed, we have an accelerated debt repayment program where we retire the debt early, which a lot of times you can retire the principal at a discount by buying the bonds, but then you forego having to pay interest costs over many years into the future. So the total savings is that not only are you reducing debt by many, many billions, you're also saving costs to taxpayers in interest by many billions of dollars. And so by the end of this fiscal year, we can say that Florida's entire state history debt that's been racked up, we've retired about 50% of it just in my tenure as governor. And so we're going to continue to build off that, but that's really, really significant. Now, in terms of tax, we did $2 billion in relief, over $2 billion. One of the things we did is something that will probably have more of an indirect effect on consumers and indirect effect on Floridians, but we were the only state in the country that taxed commercial rent. and that is a drag. I mean, we have a lot of good things, but that was a drag. It didn't make sense in terms of economic growth and opportunity, and so we actually eliminated that tax, and so we're no longer the only state that does that. I think you'll see that will benefit particularly a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. We also provide $450 million in savings through a number of different tax holidays. We do our kind of Freedom Summer tax holiday, event tickets, state park admission, life jackets, sunscreen, bike helmets, all these different things. We've made our disaster preparedness tax holiday permanent, so all disaster supplies that qualify under that, batteries, generators, tarps, gas cans, tie-down kits, all of that is now permanently tax-free year-round. So you don't have to rush for a 2-week window anymore. You can kind of just go and buy as you need to do, and we'll see what happens. We're in hurricane season, but I think people that follow this and have looked at the data and the historical trends know that once you get into August, September, beginning of October, that's when you typically are more active. It doesn't mean you can't get a hurricane in June, doesn't mean you can't get one in July, and we have had some in November too, but it's really kind of that mid-August to mid-October that is kind of the highest frequency. So you'll be able to go at any point in there and be able to load up. Now, hopefully, that's not necessary this year. If we have a respite, and we've had 6 major hurricanes in 7 years. The 10 years previous to that, there were no hurricanes hitting Florida. So these things kind of come in bunches. So it'd be nice to be able to have a situation where we're not getting hit, not just for this year, but for many years. But we got to prepare, and we prepare at the state level, and obviously individual Floridians can prepare with this, and they'll save a lot of money as a result of doing this. And then I appreciate the legislature heeding my request to enact a Second Amendment tax holiday. So from September 8th to December 31st, all firearms, munitions, accoutrements, as well as things like bow and arrows, are tax-free. So that's going to save some of our folks a lot of money to be able to have that. So we're delivering there. Now, on back-to-school tax holiday, we do it every year. What we typically do is, it's not been permanent law. The legislature says, okay, here's 2 weeks, you can do back-to-school, do this. And so what's different now is the back-to-school sales tax holiday is in law. It doesn't expire. It will be every August henceforth, unless the legislature tries to repeal it, which I don't think they would do that. So starting August 1st and going all the way till the end of August this year, Floridians can save money on important school supplies. So school supplies that are tax-free. Most school supplies under $50, tax-free. Clothing, footwear, and other apparel, $100 or less, tax-free. Learning aids for $30 or less, tax-free. Personal computers and certain accessories, $1,500 or less when purchased for non-commercial use, entirely tax-free. And that does not include things like video games and stuff like that. It has to have some academic, but that's a really big deal. So you're talking about families that they got to buy a computer, they got to buy some of these things. That's some significant savings. So if you want to find a full list of tax-free items online, go to floridarevenue.com/back-to-school. floridarevenue.com/back-to-school. So I'm appreciative that this has been done. I think it'll help families, and so you've got the entire month of August to be able to stock up on what you need. So many of these things are going to be entirely tax-free. And it's interesting, the way they structure this, if you have something that is $100 or less, let's say tax-free $100 or less, if you buy it for $99, no tax at all. If they charge $101, then they actually charge full tax on it. So what that tells me is that that's going to be an incentive for retailers to get under that tax threshold, because way more people will want to buy it, and so you'll end up selling a lot more. So I hope that that's what ends up happening for Florida families. So thanks for everybody that's been involved in this. I would just urge Floridians, take advantage of it. I know we will in my household. So you have the entire month of August where you can go and prepare for your kids to go back to school. Okay, we'll hear from Taylor Hatch. Come on up.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I am honored to be here in beautiful Bay County with our great governor, Governor DeSantis, and Commissioner Kamoutsas, both proven leaders who have just shown up time and time again, committed to putting Florida families first. My name is Taylor Hatch, and I have the absolute honor of serving as the Secretary for the Department of Children and Families. As both a public servant, a mom of 3, and a daughter of a former educator, I understand how much this time of year means to so many caregivers and so many children across our great state. The back-to-school season is filled with so much excitement and opportunity, and sometimes a little bit of nervousness and worry. And as parents themselves, Governor DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis, they just get it. They understand and they show up through their leadership and partner with the Florida legislature. Our state, Florida, continues to prioritize policies that put families at the very center, ensuring households have the tools they need to be successful, both physically and mentally, and ensuring every dollar goes further and stays in the pockets of hard-working Floridians. The back-to-school sales tax is just another example of the governor's leadership and commitment in action. Through this sales tax holiday, Florida families can save on essentials like clothing and shoes, backpacks, computers, and school supplies, like you heard just moments ago. And Floridians can take advantage of this, as the governor said, throughout the entire month of August, giving families the flexibility that they need to shop and to save. Because let's be honest, the to-do list is very real. It's real in our household, and the last-minute surprises are also inevitable. And it's important to note that all caregivers across Florida are able to utilize this opportunity. So whether you're a grandfather, a foster parent, a mentor, or a single mother, the back-to-school sales tax holiday ensures that action is being taken through providing essential relief to Florida families as well as students. As our nation is now in a new era of refocusing policies and initiatives to allow taxpayers to keep more of their hard-earned wages and parents in the driver's seat. In Florida, and with Governor DeSantis as our leader, that has always been the case. This tax holiday and the resulting savings are about far more than what goes into that shopping cart. They reflect our state's commitment to supporting caregivers, ensuring every family starts the school year with confidence and the resources they need to succeed. We are so grateful for the governor's steadfast leadership in championing initiatives that directly impact and support Floridians, children, and families. And at DCF, we are so proud to sprint alongside the governor as these efforts are purposeful and they are direct investment in Florida's future. To all the parents, to the caregivers and educators and administrators that are preparing for the year ahead, thank you. Thank you for your commitment. It means everything, and it makes a difference. To all the precious children in our great state gearing up for back to school, you got this. We are praying for you in the days ahead. Thank you again, Governor, for how you lead and for delivering savings to help ease the load and bring a tradition that should be filled with so much hope and excitement. Thank you.
Thanks,
Well, thank you, Governor. It's great to be here with you, and I think it's safe to say that there is no other governor who has done more for families than Governor DeSantis. So thank you, sir. He has ensured that parents are at the forefront of their child's education, and this policy helps those parents get the tools necessary for their children's success as we go into the 2025-2026 school year. And as a father of 4 girls, when I read that I'm going to be able to save on clothing and shoes, I was extremely excited. I promised my girls I was going to call them out today because we were going to our community pool yesterday, and of course, everybody has sandals or hand-me-downs, and nobody can find their sandals. I find a pair of 8 and a pair of 6. Never there's a matching pair of shoes. And so I said, girls, I'm going to call you out at the press conference tomorrow because I know that I'm going to have to buy that many more shoes as we go into this upcoming school year. And the book bags, that's another thing. We can't just use the same book bags from last year. Now everybody has to have a new book bag so they don't get called out. So I'm excited for this important tax policy. I remember as a kid growing up, going with my mother to be able to utilize this to get school supplies for myself. This is very important. And when you think about the fact that it's not just 2 weeks anymore, but it's for the entire month, that is huge for parents who are constantly busy with their day-to-day jobs. Now they have the flexibility to be able to have an additional 2 weeks to be able to get the tools that their children need. And the fact that this is permanent is a big deal, because that gives hope and peace to parents, knowing that this is going to benefit them for years to come. And so, as the governor highlighted, up to $1,500 on this technology equipment to help students out, the $100 for clothing and shoes, $50 for school supplies. This is very helpful, and it helps teachers as well who are preparing for their school year as it approaches to be able to have the supplies necessary to provide the best educational learning environment for their students. We have been very intentional as we go into this school year. We're encouraging our educators. You are empowered to work and to take over your classroom and let it be free of disruption, and work with the parents who have a right to have a voice in those classrooms, and work together so that together you are providing the best educational setting for the students. And we want to continue on the heels of last year, where we had significant learning gains for our students through progress monitoring. We want to continue to expand the threshold and see our students succeed. And I know these are the kinds of policies that put students first. And so thank you, Governor, for leading on this.
Good morning. My name is Kate LeBlue. Thank you, Governor DeSantis and his entire team. It is beyond an honor. I'm honored to be here today as a mother of 4, like Governor DeSantis said, and also my sweet husband and I have a small business here. So making this a month-long initiative. We own Animal Care Center, so we have a large-scale veterinary clinic.
Is that in Panama City?
It is. It's here in Bay County.
Okay. So you do.
They said, "Is he going to ask you questions?" I said, "No, no, he's not."
I'm just trying to give you free advertising.
Okay, well, if my husband will stand up, that's Dr. Matt LeBlue right there. Yes, it's small animal. It's 24 hours. We have 24-hour monitoring. It's 7 days a week. Emergency clinic. So, yes, come and see us. But as that small business owner as well, it is so beneficial for sometimes a lot of our employees that are single. A lot of them are single moms. Some of them are raising their nieces. So for them to be able to have an entire month to maybe prepare for back to school instead of that one quick week, it's such a blessing. And I know, again, for us, we have 4 kids, 3 of those which are school-aged kids. I'm not even using this. It's such a blessing. We went yesterday to Target, and that's probably my husband's least favorite event. And the kids, it's so exciting. I had to turn to him and remind him, we were all here at one time, and it's so exciting to pick out your backpack and your folder, and it's even more of a blessing for us if we can save that little bit of money. And it goes hand in hand as well with teachers. I think today we find that a lot of teachers, I'm deep into the school here, and it's fascinating how much they put back into the school out of their own pocket. This is not anything that comes from the school, and it's so neat to see those that are truly vastly underpaid and giving every single day and pouring back into our kids. And I can get in line with Governor DeSantis that it's been a summer and it's been an exciting one, full of lots of adventures, but I too am ready for a schedule and to get back into a routine. But again, thank you so much. It does bring relief to all, and I know, people like the 2 of you are at the forefront of fighting for things like education that's truly important, and it is able to get our children to, positions like you're in. So thank you. It's been such an honor, and we're so excited for the Second Amendment tax-free holiday, too.
Yeah, I didn't think about the Second Amendment holiday. I mean, you're going to have Georgians and people from Alabama. They're going to be flooding into Florida to be able to partake in that. So these retailers, I think, are going to do very, very well. So you're welcome on that. But so you got a month. It starts August 1st. Make sure that you get the most out of it. We know there's a lot of stuff that goes into kids going back to school, and I think it'll save a lot of families a lot of money. I'd also just like to point out we were down on Friday announcing at our illegal alien deportation facility at Alligator Alcatraz. DHS. So this was basically just an airport there, and within record time they've built this, and now you've had hundreds of illegal aliens that have been flown out of there for deport. So that is underway. We hope that the cadence picks up, because, it's like people will, say they have these agendas or whatever, but these illegals have already been ordered to be removed from this country through our legal process. They have these orders of removal, and they're absconding, and they're not willing to follow the law, even when you've been adjudicated to having been in the country illegally. And I think that there's 750 to 800,000 nationally that are in that status. And in Florida, we think it's 50 to 75,000 illegals that have these orders. Now, obviously, Biden wasn't doing anything on that for 4 years, but some of these people may have been under even longer than that. I don't know. But the reality is if you don't support sending somebody back to their home country who came in illegally and has already been ordered that they're violating the law and ordered to be removed, if you don't support that, then you are for an open border. And just admit it. Just tell everyone you want the open border. Let anyone who wants just to plow into our country, regardless of whether it's good for the American people. I reject that. That is not how a country can operate. The borders matter. The sovereignty matters. And ultimately, the question of who comes into the country is a question for the American people to decide. And they're free to enact an open border if they want, but they've never done that through policy. Because if politicians ran on that openly, they would lose in most parts of the country and almost any part of Florida. Maybe not Gainesville and a couple others, but most of them they would lose. So they don't do that. And so they use these catchphrases. They talk about we need comprehensive immigration policy, all that stuff, which is basically just code for amnesty and code for open border. And you've had a huge amount of problem in Europe by them having open borders. I think it's been a total catastrophe, and I think it's been a big problem here. And, some of the things like, yes, we don't want illegal immigration. That's wrong. But there's also some people, a lot of these Republicans that say, oh, you can have 1 million people plowing as long as it's legal. That's good. Is that really good? Doesn't it depend on why they're coming in? Like, for example, you have some of these tech companies, they're laying off all these American workers, and then they're importing H-1B visa people to work for cheaper. I think that's a total scam. I don't think that that's good. Yes, it is legal the way they're doing it. I acknowledge that. They're using something that's on the books. But is that good policy for us as a country to have Americans put out of work and then to bring in H-1B visa? And then they do chain migration from the H-1B. So the H-1B is bringing in other folks. And it's almost like indentured servitude because you can't leave the company. And so these companies love it because they save a lot of money off of it, but that's not putting the American people first. And so there's a whole host of, I think, really important issues. And the way I view it is we're a country with borders and sovereignty. And if you don't have that, then you don't ultimately have a country. We, the American people, decide who comes and who doesn't. And you can do that however you want. American people have enacted through their representatives this H-1B. We're free to get that to be taken away. Nothing's wedded here, but that's what it's all about. And what you're seeing in Florida, we're the only state that has stepped up to lead to enhance these efforts for immigration enforcement and to increase people. And the thing is, you've had millions and millions and millions, maybe 10 million under Biden, maybe more, but certainly at least 7 or 8 million, come in illegally and from all over the world. Not just from Mexico or Central America. You had people coming from China. You had people coming from Iran. You had people coming from Russia. You had people coming from all these places. And it's like, okay, are all those folks just here because they want to have a picnic? Maybe a lot of them. I don't know. But I know not all of them, right? I know that when you have that many millions of people, you definitely have folks who are going to cause, who are here to cause a lot of problems. And I think that that's been a soft underbelly of this country to have that border the way it was under Biden. So we're really leaning in. We're the only state that requires cooperation with DHS, with all our state and local law enforcement agencies. Like, look, in Florida, I'm going to order the state agencies to do it, right? I mean, that's fine. But, you know, there's a lot of local police department, sheriff's departments, they'd rather not be involved in. I get it. But we're either going to solve this problem now or we're never going to solve it. So we've been leaning in on this in a really big way. I know the president and some of his key people in this space have called on other states to do similar to Florida. And I'd like to see that. I think that that would really make a difference. Just getting through all the people that have already been ordered to be removed, you know, that's not an easy thing to do. That's a lot of logistics. You got to fly and do this and do that. Fortunately, Alligator Alcatraz, you literally just drive them 2,000 feet and there's a massive runway right there. So it's very easy. It's a one-stop shop to be able to do this and to get it done. And, you know, I've been pointing this out, but this is true, and people just need to know this. You know, I called a special session of the Florida legislature at the beginning of the year because I said, we have a mandate. President's policy is to reinstitute borders and to make sure that we have deportations of illegals. And so we did that. I proposed the policies that we have now, but I was initially, that was not something that particularly the Speaker of the House was willing to follow. So they did this bill, and they put it on my desk, Perez-Gruder's amnesty bill, and it would have made Alligator Alcatraz illegal in the state of Florida. It actually would have affirmatively shut down everything I've been doing and my administration's been doing to protect against you know, illegals on boats from Haiti and Bahamas and all these different places. And it would have totally stripped the governor from being able to be involved in immigration enforcement at all. Well, guess what, guys? If I wasn't involved in creating Alligator, do you think that would have been built? Of course it wouldn't have been built. And so this is what happened, and I vetoed that legislation. But how is it that you have this massive Republican majorities, and then they're trying to kneecap one of the most important issues to the voters that elected us? And so, look, I think people are saying, oh, look at Florida, they're doing all this stuff. But understand, there's a lot of people, people that you elected who didn't want to see that happen, or at least voted in a way that wouldn't have done. And yeah, I vetoed it. We eventually got good legislation. But why did it have to even come to that? And I think that's a window into, this is why no other state has done this, right? Because these guys run for office, they talk about, oh, we're going to be tough on immigration, the border, and then they get in and they don't do it. And that's why we're the only state of 50 that's actually done what we've done. And I don't think there's another state that's, quite frankly, even close. Hopefully some will get on board here. But that's just kind of been the nature of it. And honestly, like, that probably would have happened to Florida. But you got me sitting here, and I'm not about to let that happen. And so we made sure that we're doing what's right. So I think you're going to see the cadence increase down there. I think you're going to see, you know, rapid flights from DHS. We don't run those flights. DHS runs them. But we are absolutely committed to making sure that, these policies actually work, and that these policies are being delivered that the American people have asked for so many years, as we've seen this really horrible border situation and immigration system spiral out of control, particularly under the Joe Biden presidency. So I want to thank Kevin Guthrie, who's spearheaded and organized all the stuff down there. He heads our Division of Emergency Management. Hopefully you guys don't see him here this summer, because that would not be good. As well as all the state and local law enforcement agencies who've been really great partners in that. A lot of our sheriffs have been fantastic, and we've really worked well with DHS to show, you know, what federal and state cooperation can be. So thanks for everyone that's been involved in that. This is just kind of one more milestone. There's a lot more that's going to happen. We want to make sure that is expanded so that the laws of this country are honored and enforced. Okay, do we have any questions back there? Yes.
Yes, sir. There are a lot of rural communities, especially in the Panhandle, and a lot of education is obviously shifting to technology. What are some ways you think that this affordability initiative is going to help those rural communities make sure that their kids have access to that education?
Well, obviously, those education-focused electronics up to $1,500 is tax-free. And so that makes a big difference for folks. But I think it's interesting because you bring up the issue of electronic, of kind of technology. And we're in this situation, and we're going to be rolling out some strong policies, I think, soon. But with this artificial intelligence, I'm not one to say that we should just turn over our humanity to artificial intelligence. I think it's very dangerous, potentially. Obviously, technology is what it is. It's not like you just put your head in the sand and hope it all disappears. But if you look at what the shape of the economy could be like in the future with artificial intelligence, you're talking about major, major upheavals in jobs and in businesses. And I know that there's some, they actually passed in the U.S. House of Representatives, they passed a measure that said no state can do anything affecting artificial intelligence for the next 10 years. Now, fortunately, the Senate didn't support that, and it didn't get into law, but that was passed, and that was passed by Republicans, by the way. That basically means that we're going to be at the beck and call of Silicon Valley tech overlords. That's not what I want for the state of Florida. So I think it's going to be, as you look at what's happening, what are we going to be able to do to make sure that, it's one thing for technology to enhance the human experience. It's another thing for technology to try to supplant the human experience and to act like humans don't even really need to think for themselves because they just have, these machines that are going to be churning out. And incidentally, artificial intelligence is wrong a lot of the time. They make really serious errors, and I know they say they're always perfecting it, but the truth is they're only going to analyze whatever data set they have at their fingertips. And so if you wanted to manipulate and create false narratives and you're in control of one of these AI, you just put garbage in the data set. Garbage in, garbage out. That's what will end up happening. So I think that these are really profound questions, and I think that to strip the states of our authority to be able to protect people. I mean, I just signed legislation a couple months ago, legislature passed. You had a young girl whose image was being taken and put into, these pornographic videos. And if you really look, maybe you can tell. I don't know how these things are, but it's gotten a lot better, right? And so it's the type of thing where shouldn't we be able to offer some protection against that so that someone can't do that to you, particularly for young people? Yeah, I think we should. So I signed that. I was happy to do it. That would have not been allowed had that provision that the U.S. House of Representatives passed. So looking at how that's going to affect the approach to education, there was a lot of people that would just tell folks, oh, well, you can't do manual labor. You got to learn how to code, and that's what everything's going to be. Actually, with AI, it may just be the opposite of that, right? Because AI is not going to be able to supplant, the need to have some of these skilled craftsmen to be able to do things to the extent that it may be able to supplant the kind of white-collar job who's like processing claims or doing things in like a law firm or things of that nature. Although their legal analysis, I think people have pointed out, they misrepresent cases and stuff like that. So I think that there's a lot of perils there too. But we're going to have to look to see, okay, how do we navigate this? How do we make sure that we're protecting folks here so that they can live good, meaningful lives? And it's one thing to have some technology and understand, but I just look at like social media and these smartphones with these kids. Has that been a positive on net? No, it's been a net negative. Now, I'm not saying there aren't good things about it. When I was deployed in Iraq way back when, if I wanted to, call home, I had to get a satellite phone and call on some big satellite phone, or I could send an email. I didn't have FaceTime. I didn't have some of these things. So there are things that have been, good to connect people. And I'm not saying it's bound. You share photos when you're doing this, and they kind of do that. But there's a lot of nastiness. There's a lot of negative for these young kids, to be on that. And the amount that they're on their phone, I think that anyone would say, we would be better off reducing that. And in Florida, we banned cell phones, from classroom instruction. And I think that was the right thing to do with that. And I think the learning ends up being better. But then you also ask, okay, in school and in college and in grad schools, are students just going to have artificial intelligence, write their term paper? It's like, do we even need to think? And at that point, when you're taking that away, then it's like, okay, we're not going to think, we're going to rely on this, but then whatever data's in that is really kind of how we're gonna live. And so if you manipulate that data, then you can really change society in a lot of ways. So I think this is like the biggest issue that's facing our society. I think it's the biggest issue that's facing the economy. You look like the stock market. A lot of the reason why that's hitting strong is because of AI. People are very bullish on AI. We had the big tech run-up in .com, too, at the end of the 1990s. So I don't know whether it's a bubble, whether it's going to go even higher. I mean, obviously, if I knew that, I'd probably find another line of work and probably do pretty well for myself. So people don't know. But the reality is there's a lot of eggs in this basket now. People are very bullish on this. And, my fear is, I don't want our experience, our ability to live and pursue happiness, which is what the Founding Fathers intended, to be subordinated to the whims of these big tech guys who have maybe their different agenda. So that's going to be impactful in every school district, not just rural school districts. But I do think the emphasis on, hey, people just need to be coding. And we haven't necessarily said that in Florida. We've been very supportive of vocational and workforce education from the time I was governor. But we have enhanced computer science curriculum in the schools, and we understand that's just a part of life, and so you want to be able to do. But I don't know if artificial intelligence, if this continues to go at the pace it is, I don't know that learning to code, that there'll be quite as many opportunities as maybe people thought, 5 or 6 years ago. So these are really significant questions. As I said, I'm going to be rolling out an approach on this within the next few months, and I don't know that it's going to need legislation. We might need some legislation, but we've got to be careful about how all this unwinds. Anybody else? Yes.
Excuse me. Are Bay County teachers and principals expecting to have their schools rated by ICE this academic year?
You'd have to ask them. I don't know. I don't know that that's been what ICE has done. Obviously, I don't control that. That's something that the federal government controls. But I can tell you with the folks, for example, that we've been helping with down in South Florida, these are folks that have been ordered to be removed from this country. They've had due process. They've gone through this. And obviously, that either means something or it doesn't. And if it's like, okay, you can come in illegally, you can get ordered to be removed through the process, which is honestly a lot more process than anyone else would give. Because I think any other company, they see you, say you have a right to be here, and you can't answer that question, they would just send you immediately, right? So the U.S. provides and it makes it harder to be able to, you could have a president open the border to illegals, and then the next president comes in and they want to reverse that, and it's like there's all these inhibitions, right? And courts will go, and some of these judges are totally off their rocker with some of these decisions that they're making. But that's the thing, their job, what they view their job is not to apply the law faithfully. They view their job is to stop Trump administration policies, and they try to figure out ways to do it. So you just have, but how is it? That's like a one-way ratchet. So they can open it. You're not allowed to reverse that, even though them opening it was violating the laws. So if you can go through all that, be ordered to be removed, and that doesn't mean anything, well then why should you say that your tax bill means anything? Why not just tell the IRS, I don't think so. You've ordered me to pay, but they don't make the illegals leave when they get ordered, so we're just not going to do it. I don't think you'd get away with that. And so is it like, do they get special rights coming to the country illegally? Because it's almost like American people, if you run afoul of the law, you're not necessarily given very much grace for some of this stuff. And honestly, enforce the law, right? I'm not saying don't do it too, but man, in this situation, you're talking about tens of thousands at a minimum in Florida that are already in this status. They should have gone when they got ordered this, and they didn't. And obviously, Biden wasn't doing anything. When they would come across the border in 2021, when Biden opened it, we sent Highway Patrol, National, we sent a bunch we were the first state to do it, to kind of help. And, some of it was helpful because people would see the presence and then they would decide not to go across there. The reality is once these people made it across, our guys would apprehend, they turn it over to Border Patrol, and under Biden, they were ordered to give a notice to appear for the illegal like 3 years into the future. Go enjoy your 3-year vacation in the United States. And so, well, obviously you have an incentive to want to come illegally at that point. So it was just like a funhouse mirror view of what sovereignty and what the rule of law actually matters, but that was kind of the standard. So we saw that from the very beginning. Now we're in a situation where they're going to uphold the law, and we're going to make sure that happens. And our role is not, people ask me about, well, why are you getting involved? Why are you doing it? I'm doing it because if we don't do it, the job's not going to get done. Like the ICE doesn't have enough resources to be able to handle this level just on the folks that are doing it. So if the state and locals aren't supplementing, then the job's just not going to get done. And I want to get the job done. I mean, I think that when you see problems, you got to address the problems. So that's what we're doing on that. Now they say, well, do you really want to be doing this? That? Look, they got a lot of money now, DHS. If they want to be able, if they can handle this 100% without us be my guest. But I don't think it's going to get there anytime soon. So what we're doing, I think, fills a very important void. And without us standing this up, you wouldn't have these flights undertaken. So we've got a lot of guys that have worked very hard on this, and I think it's been very good. Incidentally, talking about teachers, we had another increase in teacher pay in the budget I signed. So we've now done, I think it's about $1.35 billion for the year. And that what we do is we send it under our teacher pay part. So like school districts can't use it for anything other than teacher salaries. Because you'd see education spending go up and then teachers say, well, we didn't get any increase. It's because it's going to bureaucracy or other things. I don't know what they do. And so we did that. Now what's happened over the years is we've had instances of where these teacher unions have put the pay increases for the teachers on ice to try to negotiate other things. And so they're literally using their own teachers as pawn. And there were some that were months late, right? I mean, we had a number of school districts that were months late. So that money, the budget's been signed. We know that's there. They should be working very quickly now, and I know Stasi's going to have some commentary on this coming out. They need to be working to increase the salaries for their teachers. We provided money. Now I wanted a little bit more than what the legislature ultimately did, but the reality is this is historic. We've never done this much in a given year. So let's get that done. But how is it that you have money there and you're balking at implementing that because you have a different agenda? And I'll tell you, you guys look at this National Education Association, which is the biggest teacher union. Look at what they're promoting. It's leftist ideology in politics, and honestly has nothing to do, in many instances, with education. They're any pet cause on the left, they are doing that, and that's what they want for our schools. And so I think we've done a good job of putting parents first, putting students first. We have done things like paycheck protection so that they can't do automatic deduction, for the dues for the school unions. But them withholding that the salary increases, that was definitely the biggest low mark for school unions was their behavior during COVID. When they sued me because we had open schools. They wanted courts to order our schools closed. And I was like, no, and we won. But that's what they did. And they did this whole song and dance about it. And they complained. Now, look, most rank-and-file teachers wanted to get in the classroom. They understood that their students would suffer if we didn't do that. Particularly special needs students was horrible to try to do something on Zoom. So they did that, and these folks fought us every step of the way. And they would do these stupid demonstrations where they would bring coffins to our Department of Education building, saying all the kids. I mean, it's just it was ridiculous. But now if you ask them, hey, why did you want schools locked down? They will deny that they took that position. They will deny it. When we all knew, I know whose name's on that lawsuit when they filed against me in June of 2020 or whenever that was. I know that. And so that was the biggest low for them. The second, I think, biggest low that I've seen just since I've been governor is trying to mothball or delay salary increases for their own teachers because they were using that as leverage to be able to accomplish other tangential aspects of their agenda. That money's there. Let's get that money out to the teachers, and let's get it done. Okay, thanks, everybody. Enjoy your back-to-school holiday.